I was kidnapped for 3 days in 2004. Today, I finally found out why. When Dylan's wife Mara told me he'd died, I instantly knew 3 things. 1, it was suicide. 2, it led back to Fall Creek Water Plant, where we killed Julian Verrett. And 3, the game Verrett started with us still wasn't finished, not even after 20 years. You would have known kids like us, Cameron, Felix, Dominic, Dylan, and me. Cameron, who got locked in closets for anything less than an A-. Dom, who liked eyeliner, but enjoyed minor arson, and strong cigarettes even more. Felix, fluent in 3 languages, and in handcuffs just as many times. Dylan, who never stopped playing the game, not even after we killed Julian Verrett. And me, the quiet kid who transferred schools in November and lied about it being because of my dad's job. You think anyone was going to connect the dots? Not when Julian Verrett's death was ruled accidental. Not when Ricky Boyce took a 30-year plea for kidnapping and manslaughter. Not when 4 of Verrett's former math students left school mid-year for nervous exhaustion. I slept in my parents' room for 2 years. I didn't step outside alone for another 3. Cameron finished school at home with a team of elite tutors. Felix vanished until I got a call from boot camp, his voice practically giddy that he was free from his parents. We never talked about what happened in the sub-basement, and we never, ever mentioned what we saw happen to poor, doomed Dominic. Not out loud, anyway. Our parents went silent, and though I swore I'd tell the truth someday, I didn't. I followed their lead. That was before Dylan hanged himself with a dog leash, and any chance at excuses ran out. Dylan left a box for us. Mara told us he'd been collecting it his whole adult life, trying to figure out what happened to you guys as kids, she said. Everything he'd been working on was in a big black and yellow Costco tub in their basement. Mara told us we had 2 hours before Dylan's family got in. Tomorrow they were burying him at Our Lady of Peace Cemetery. Before then, she wanted the box gone forever. Felix was pacing. Cameron went quiet. I opened it. The smell hit us immediately. Verrett's Winston brand cigarettes, the mildew funk of wet paper, the stench of sulfur gas from the municipal water treatment reached out and wouldn't let go. Felix splashed puke into the downstairs sink. Cameron stared at the contents. An odd sunny day breeze swirled around the basement. Is this from Fall Creek? He whispered. They were. I hadn't seen the cards from the Sylvan Shore in 20 years, but they still slithered through my dreams, gold-edged and mold-slick, every week since I was 15. I never even knew how the game ended, except that the body count was 3 and rising. I picked up the rubber-banded stack of cards. I went dizzy. The smoke and mold and water smell bloomed. Felix spasmed and dry-heaved. I waved cigarette smoke out of my eyes. The odd warm breeze changed direction. I didn't understand where I was. I was in a basement. Yes, it was today, right before the funeral. Number. It was 20 years ago. I could feel Verrett's long, yellow fingernails on my neck. It started a quarter mile from the state fairgrounds. We turned off Keystone and into the cracked-up Fall Creek water plant, under the faded sign that proclaimed, "Everything that grows needs water." We hustled through the padlocked bay door, scrambled down the stairwell past the locked fire door, slipped through the dead-bolted steel slab marked Backwash Chamber, Sub B1. The sub-basement reeked. Mold, chlorine, and chain-smoked cigarettes pervaded. But here we were. Felix yanked, shook, and cracked a beer from a cooler packed with ice, and said this was exactly what the fuck we needed. Verrett said congratulations were in order. We clapped for Ricky. He'd really set the place up. Ricky grinned big time as he helped Verrett with his coat. Verrett lifted his good shoulder as Ricky gently pulled the sleeve past the bad one. Verrett's shirt got hung on the butt of a revolver. I must have been staring right at it, because Ricky winked at me and covered it with a flick of Verrett's flannel shirt. Verrett was our advanced math teacher. He wore these huge, steel-rimmed glasses, and always had one hand tucked inside a pocket. Students would whisper he'd been in a mental institution, that he was fucking loaded, that he had a false hand and he'd cut the old one off himself. Verrett understood us. He understood that everyone in our little group only got the wrong kind of attention from adults. For most of us, he was the first male adult who wasn't constantly shouting at us. Before he was in my class, Ricky couldn't even factor a trinomial. Now look at him, setting up our critical event with personal grace. I'd clap, "Ah, If only I was able. Ricky was all smiles as he rolled up a sticky joint. He ran our Dungeons and Dragons games. His plots drip-filtered from weekly LSD swan dives. Dominic and I passed the joint pinch to pinch, exhaling thick cones of cannabis indica smoke. A week ago, Dom and I dyed our hair. Lunar tides eclipsed black over his mom's chipped kitchen sink. Ricky said we should be really excited. He said he played Veret's game just one time, and it changed his whole life. All that was left for us to do was play test the final prototype, and in return, all the weed, beer, and Dungeons and Dragons we could stand. We were all virgins, but Dominic, and it was heaven. Credit? Felix asked. You said we get credit? Each one of your names, in Sylvan Shore's game manual, on the very first page, Veret said. For what exactly? I asked. For refining the game. So we're just unpaid labor? Dominic asked. On my teacher's salary, this is the best I can do. Dominic rolled his eyes. So you'll be the designer, writer, person who gets all the credit and money? No. Veret laughed. His breath stank like coffee and mold. Just the translator. Ricky said you invented it. What? Did you and Ricky discover it on some acid trip? Dylan giggled. Number oh no, Veret said, tapping the front of his skull. I just translated as it was spoken to me, and the rules were placed into my head one by one. Everyone eyeballed each other. Is this shit for real? By who? Dominic scoffed. Veret sighed, closed his eyes. He leaned back and sighed. The goddess. Some of the other guys laughed. I didn't. A fist of ice squeezed my stomach as I thought about Veret, the gun, and those 3 locked doors. This was how the game started. This is how every tick of the clock for 20 years was another turn, until Dylan waved the flag when he hanged himself next to his Toyota Camry. See, Veret worked for the water company. Indianapolis needed an expert on pipes, flow, and pressure. So, you get Julian Veret. That's how he had his accident. That's how he saw the goddess. His memory of it was just 2 distinct noises, angry groaning from the lathe as it snatched his cuff, then one wet snap as his arm shattered and his shoulder pried out of socket. Veret said the lathe whipped all the clothes off. He was cold and naked as his head slammed over and over against the hard metal saddle of the machine. By the time most of his teeth were gone, and he was blind from his own foamy blood, well, that was when he finally met the goddess. She reached down, with one slender hand, from above the bubbling red death, and clicked off the machine. He looked us each in the eye and reached a short, shaking arm out. I could have never reached that button on my own, boys. He said the goddess saved him with one hand and placed a vision into his mind with the other. They scraped what was left of him off the lathe and got him to Methodist Hospital with 22 fractures, a cranium fracture, and one arm that would be little more than dead weight at best. He said the game could pierce the inexplicable veil, and that he, Julian Veret, would be the one to bring the truth of the goddess across this chasm. He shuffled the cards. Plick, plick, plick. Each one of us has the same odds. Every card is a moment in life moving forward from this point in time. Every play, a lifetime in miniature. You put your will to the test and win or succumb to the whims of the goddess. Time to experience your future. Pretty cards, black, white, gold, blue, red. Their names glinted and tantalized. The Twilight Bay, the question of seashells, dashed against the rocks. A strong, warm wind blew through the chamber. Veret gasped as they freckled the dingy floor. I picked one up, the undertow, gold fingers grasping just above the waves, grasping for something already gone, catching only an ocean breeze. Jesus, this looks unpleasant, I said. Ricky lit a joint. Tell him, Julian. Some take all, some give all. Only one card wins. What does this one do? Dylan said, poking the edges of dashed against the rocks. He traced a woodcut image of a man battered, his body painting jagged rocks crimson as the sea foam below curled pink. Instant death, Ricky said. The player is removed from the game. No further turns are taken. Julian cleared the table off. He unfolded a thick black game board in front of us, thin slots sunk to stand the cards up nicely. But it has already been proven before I even start. Julian began stacking out piles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each of us. Each card is destiny, sure as the tide. What will happen, has happened, and is always happening. but only I will arrive at the sylvan shore. Dom rolled his eyes and scoffed. He couldn't possibly be sold. Verrett used his good hand to lift the gun from its holster. The room got so quiet, all you could hear was the cigarette paper smoldering. If anyone thinks they can stop what has started, Verrett said. Bullshit, said Dominic, as Verrett moved the gun less than a foot from his face. First turn. See what the goddess has chosen for you. Are you going to kill me? What if the game says I win? Verrett tapped out Dominic's cards. Dominic, let's find out. They don't mean anything. Oh, they certainly do. You'll see exactly what the goddess has in store for each of us. It's a toy, Verrett raged. Pick it up. The goddess demands it. Dominic pursed his lips. He picked the top card off his pile. With a glance, he went fft and flicked the card over his shoulder. Ricky leaned to catch a glance of it. Oh. Verrett didn't take his eyes off Dom. He asked what the card was. Dashed against the rocks, Ricky said. Verrett pulled the trigger an inch away. Long dark strands of his hair smoldered onto the game board. His head made a terrible sizzling noise as he tilted straight back. Verrett slid the barrel of the gun across our faces and shouted that we better stop crying. He told Ricky to clean up the mess. The odd warm breeze started up again as Ricky yanked Dom's jacket up past his shoulder. Verrett stared right down the gun barrel. I tried to shout, but only dry yelps escaped. Verrett tugged a tight knot across Dom's soaked head, jamming the denim deep into the hole in his forehead. Ricky grunted and shoved Dominic's body over the rails and into the huge backwash pool beneath us. We watched the gray water grind away and churn red before the ringing in our ears stopped. Verrett said in a merry tone that it was my turn at the card. I froze. Sell by dreadful sell. I remember wishing Verrett would push the barrel into my hair and pull the trigger. End this now. I'll take my chances with the inconceivable. But this suffering was Verrett's plan. In phone-jammed subfloors beneath the city, he held a smoking gun and the only keys to daylight. We were going to play this game until we were dead or insane, one turn at a time.